again. Hi.
Hi. Oh man, yeah. For those of you who don't know, we got to do a couple of events together last year when our previous books came out, and now it's been a year.
It's been a year. It's been a whole year, and we still are doing this way. But on the upside, that means as soon as this is over, we can both just like wash our faces, remove bras, be
Yeah.
on the couch. So that's great. And you all can do that currently.
Uh-huh. I mean, I honestly almost didn't put on a bra for tonight, but then I did at the last minute, trying to be professional.
I'm going to say no comment for my situation, but I will say that this is not a dress I could wear in public currently because I realized I hadn't washed it when I put it on and was like, that's a smell that nobody will have to smell. So anyway, happy release week.
Release week. And for everybody who's here, I don't know if you can tell, we're doing a theme, margarita summer. I'm wearing my beach read sunglasses that I got last year.
This side.
Yeah. Mine, I think it all rubbed off, but that was a big.
I look forward to all the screenshots that are just like that, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, margarita summer. So if you are participating in margarita summer, make sure to let us know that on Instagram, and whatever that means for you.
Yeah, you don't need to drink a margarita. You do you.
Yeah, anyway. Margarita summer is a state of mind.
Exactly. Yeah. Should we talk about our books and then?
Yeah, we'll talk about our books, and then from there, hi Danielle, hi Samya. Yeah, we have like this list that I did print out of just like ridiculous things that we want to ask each other, but we'll start with the even keeled, like, do you want to tell me about A Special Place for Women, which by the way, I have already read, I loved. I don't have my copy on display because I immediately lent it to someone the day after it got here. It's so fantastic, and I'm just like happy that I'll have more people to talk to about it.
This one does seem to be a conversation starter. I have my copy of People We Meet on Vacation right here next to me, so I can just touch it and, be excited. But I will probably be lending it to somebody at some point very soon. And I do just want to say, maybe like the highest compliment that I can give this book is that I read it the day after I got my second dose of vaccine. So I was like, on the couch at the beginning of the day, I was, achy and tired. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to focus on anything today, but I guess I'll try to read this book. And I read it all in one day, and it was a wonderful day. I had a great time.
Yeah, I think I already told you that when I got my second dose, I was like, this is going to be fun. It's like a planned 6-day. Like, I'll watch all the shows I watched as a kid. Like, I bought all the food ahead of time to have like sick day food. And I swear like the entire day, my husband and I just like laid on opposite couches, groaning, didn't watch any TV, didn't read anything. Just like, we're like, I hate feeling sick. But all that to say, so worth it now because.
Yeah, one day of feeling sick to live your life again.
Your life, to have a margarita summer.
Yeah.
So I feel like Michael gave a little bit of a pitch for both of our books, but do you want to, I guess, yeah, how would you pitch A Special Place for Women?
Okay, I would pitch it. It's about a journalist named Jillian who is not in a great place. She recently lost her mother to cancer. Her new media company that she was writing for just went under. And she feels like she has kind of lost her chance to have the career that she wants. And so she's like, screw it, one final big story pitch. I'm going to infiltrate this top secret women only club called Nevertheless that I've heard all these rumors about, from the sort of fun rumors like, ooh, Rihanna comes and gets her aura read when she's in town, to the more intense ones, like they handpicked New York City's first female mayor. And then when she came for their fortunes, they took her down. So Jillian gets herself in, gets in deep, weird things happen. And she finds out that these women are far more powerful than she ever imagined, but also like, maybe she likes being in the club.
It's so fun. I feel like it's kind of rare. I don't know if you have this experience. It's like rarer, I think, to be truly surprised by a book once you're just able to be writing professionally, because you're also always reading and you're just thinking about everything in story terms. And I really did not know where A Special Place for Women was going. Like I had ideas, you know, you set it up really nicely, but it's definitely the kind of book that you're like, you don't know until like the very end. And like, I just feel like there are plenty of twists, and like, I mean, this to me is a good thing, but like, I do keep being like, I expect this book to be polarizing, because it like is a pretty ballsy book. It just like takes its chances. And for me, that's so exciting as a reader. It's like the thing that I'm constantly like searching for, is a book that will catch me off guard. And even though I'd read your last book, so I knew kind of what to expect from like your voice and the tone and all of that, it still was like just shock after shock. So fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been fascinating to see. Like, I will literally read one review that's like, oh my God, the twist is like incredible. And now this is one of my favorite books. And then the next review will be like, the twist is too weird for me.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they say don't read your Goodreads. I sometimes like do screenshot those when it's just exact opposite opinions, because I find it so comforting to just be like, here's someone who liked this exact thing and someone who hated this exact thing. And it's just a good reminder that it's like, I mean, books are what they are for you. And for me, this is perfect. This book is so good. And like, yeah, I just am really, I was so excited to hear the TV announcement, because it's really cinematic, which I think you have that knack anyway. Like in Happy and You Know It, I felt the same way, where it's like, this is just ready to be on screen. So I'm so excited.
Thank you. I'm very excited too. And I kind of can't believe it's happening. And I keep expecting them to be like, oh, we were pranking you, but now there's a TV announcement. So that would be
Yeah,
harder.
you can't take it back. Sucker.
Well, would you like to tell us about People We Meet on Vacation, which I feel like is one of those books where I don't know if a negative review of this book exists. I think it's impossible to not love this book.
There are definitely negative reviews, because while I try to only read my good reviews, I always accidentally like see something and then I'm just like, oh, how did I do that? Like I scare myself. But it is like it's like this weird, like charmed experience where I was just talking to like my publishing team about this, how like with Beach Read, I felt like everything is just sort of going right, and that just doesn't happen. Like that just isn't typically like the publishing experience, because everything's so unpredictable. I mean, like both of our last books came out into a global pandemic. And like the digital events were all new. And with that book, it just felt like everything was going so right. And so with this one coming out, I was just like, there's no way, like just bracing myself from the moment that Beach Read published to just never have that experience again. And I feel so lucky that like so many readers like found me with my last book and are really enjoying what I'm doing still. And even if they didn't like it as much as Beach Read, or the ones who like it more, it's great. There are bad reviews, but it's great. And it's okay for there to be bad reviews. And I don't read them, so feel free to write them.
Yeah,
you're not harming us.
I should say I go to Goodreads and I just filter 5 stars and only read.
Oh my gosh, that makes me, I didn't know if that was like a thing that's like mass like authors doing, or if that was just my like, I need this, I need this little boost. But I will talk about this in a very roundabout way, which is how I talk about everything. So like Michael was saying, this book follows Alex and Poppy, who are 2 best friends. It was sort of my homage to When Harry Met Sally. So I really wanted to do like an opposites attract long-term friendship thing. And so the basic premise is these 2 people who are totally different meet in college and form an unlikely friendship. And then over the next decade, basically, they take a yearly summer trip together. And so the book follows those yearly summer trips, but there's also a present timeline that is 2 years after their last trip. And they've had this falling out. You don't really know what happened. You have some guesses, obviously, because I'm not Laura Hankin and I can't write the unpredictable book. But yeah, so it's kind of like retracing their friendship and how they got to this point where they're no longer speaking. And then Alex and Poppy decide to take this one last trip and see if they can salvage their friendship. And yeah, I mean, I wrote it before the pandemic, so I didn't realize I would be putting a book out. It's like purely about travel a year after most of us have really been able to travel. But I think it's like good timing, because a lot of us are starting to get like things back to normal.
Yeah, it's like you can read this one and travel vicariously through them, or you can be like, I'm vaxxed up, I'm ready to go, putting this in my bag. I'm so excited. It's perfect timing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing with the publishing. It's like, you never really know. You just kind of like have to write the best book. And I mean, I feel like the best book that you can tell right then. And I think I'm really curious because we're going to go really spoiler light, because your book has been out for one day and mine has officially been out for one day. But like, there's almost like a little bit, would you consider there to be sort of a genre leap for you from Happy and You Know It to, yeah, I would kind of say that, even though there's like so much similarity there. And I'm really curious, like, how you made that decision, like how this book formed in your brain, like what everybody thought about it to follow up sort of like your, I don't know, like adult Gossip Girl is like sort of like one of the things I think of is like Happy and You Know It. Like how was it? How did that jump happen for you? How did you know this was like the next book for you?
Yeah. Well, it took me a while to land on this concept. I don't know about you, but I had a 2-book deal for Happy and You Know It. And I didn't have a second idea. And I was sort of like freaking out that I was never going to have one. But I then was thinking about The Wing. I don't know if you know The Wing,
Oh,
or
yeah.
if people watching know The Wing. Yeah. So it's this club, this co-working space for women only. And I had gone to it couple years prior to meet a friend who was a member for coffee. And I was so excited because it was really like pitched as this, utopia for women. And you would go and just be bathed in sisterhood, right? And like your worries would be over and everyone would know exactly what you needed because we were all women and we were all in this together. And I guess I just felt like I was not impressive enough for The Wing and like I didn't belong there. And suddenly,
You were the wrong kind of woman for The Wing, basically. You're like, oh, this is sisterhood for these people.
yeah, yeah. And I remember, at the time I was like running around from day job to day job, and I hadn't gotten my like impressive deal for Happy and You Know It yet. And I was in the elevator on the way back down, and this woman standing next to me was talking to her friend about how the struggle in her life was that like it was really hard to date a celebrity chef because he wasn't front. And I was just like, wow, this is fascinating. I feel like this place solved or is like trying to solve the problem of gender inequality, but it's creating all sorts of new problems. And I think watching these kinds of places over the years, it's become clear that like they didn't think as much about class or race or a bunch of
Yeah.
other issues. So that's where that came from. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I mean, that kind of feeds into like something else that I did want to ask you about, which I know we're just kind of jumping around with our long topic list, but I feel like with your last book and with this one, there is that outsider element, which I find myself really gravitating toward as a reader. And I wonder if like readers in general sort of feel like voyeurs who are like, I'm always just sort of observing and like seeing what's happening and I'm not quite in it. And I feel like with Happy and You Know It and with A Special Place, you have two different protagonists who aren't really all that similar, but they're both kind of going through crises and they both kind of find this group of women who seem like, oh, they're kind of the aspirational woman. That's who I'm supposed to be or whatever. And I don't know, is that like a conscious choice? Like, because that's like a really strong thematic element in both of them.
I know. It is funny how when you zoom out like that, it's like, oh, I wrote the same exact book. And then when you actually look at it, it's like, so different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny, both of these ideas came from real moments in my life when I did personally feel like an outsider, and Happy and You Know It. I was working as a playgroup musician for wealthy women. And so I was always going around to these apartments and wondering what their lives were like. But yeah, I find myself really drawn to this sense of like, so many of us are never going to be in these worlds really.
Mhm.
And so we do want to peek into them. And I love the idea of an outsider coming in because they naturally are going to shake things up, right? And then they can also be the audience lens, to be like, yeah, this is odd. A lot of the world does not work this way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But what inspired you to write People We Meet on Vacation?
I mean, it's funny because you were saying like, yeah, that you had no other idea. And it sounded like maybe you went through a lot of potential ideas before landing on this one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was very much the same experience for me where it was a 2-book deal. So I knew I was going to be working with the same team. I knew I'd be doing something like in the same realm, essentially. but we really probably looked at like, I say like 100 ideas, but some of them were just like a phrase, like a lot of them, most of them were not like a paragraph. It would just be like, does this word like do anything for you? In like our group brainstorm, like this kind of seems like a thing. Um, and yeah, and so I was kind of just trying desperately to find inspiration everywhere I looked and trying to figure out what was like calling to me to write about next. And there were kind of two different things that happened at the same time, which the first was that I was thinking about setting, because I usually do actually start with setting, and that informs everything else that I do with a book, with the characters, with the plot, all of that. And I hadn't really figured out a setting that I felt like would be exciting to me to spend a whole book in. And I felt like, well, I've kind of written, books about Michigan, Kentucky, Ohio. Those are the places I'm most intimately acquainted with. And so when I was thinking about other locations, they were mostly places that I had experienced as like a visitor. And I felt kind of weird without like an extended research trip. I felt kind of weird trying to write those places as a local. It's like you can do all of the research online, but I just felt like I'm not going to nail this if I try and come at it as if I like really know what it's like to live in this place. And so then from there was just like, okay, so maybe I should be writing about a vacation. And so that was kind of like one piece of it, of just being like, so I'm thinking about all these like vacation destinations. And I also kind of knew I wanted to play with structure, which isn't something I really have done much at all in the past. Even in like my unpublished books, it's not something I've started with, but I was like, that seems fun to just kind of like start with this backbone, this shape of the book, and build around that. And then like the third, there's like a million different pieces. I would assume that you probably feel similarly, where it's like, you don't even know what all you're like reaching for until you have the whole thing. And you're like, oh, I was thinking about this and this and this and this, and it all came together like this.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing was I had a conversation with a friend who is also a publishing author. And this was before Beach Read came out. And so like my career before that had been considered like very mid-list, which basically means like I had some readers, but like nobody really knew who I was, and that's fine. But I had a lot of friends who were a lot more successful than me. So I kind of saw like the best case scenario, what like the dream job could look like. And I had been writing and publishing for a few years, and I was talking to this friend who had a very similar career kind of trajectory to me. And I was just like, do you ever feel like now you like publishing like can't do anything else for you? Not like your career can blow up still, but just sort of like you had all these dreams that you spent your whole life thinking like, when I get that, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because that's just sort of like how you think as a kid. You're like, especially if you're a kid who knows what you want to do, who's like, this is the perfect like dream job for me. And so then she was like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like we both had these sort of like middling careers, but we knew what the really fancy careers looked like. And we were like, and still the best part of that is the writing. Like there's all kinds of new stress that comes with being like fancy. And like there's just good and bad to every kind of level of the career that you can find yourself in. And we were just sort of like talking about that, and then I was like kind of describing the feeling more, and then we both just like started laughing hysterically because she was like, you're describing depression. And so from there we kind of were like, it's not depression, it's millennial ennui.
Mm-hmm.
So millennial ennui, like, which is the thing that's talked about in the book, was like kind of the first kernel of like the emotional arc, where it was like, you've got Jillian who's kind of like had her whole world implode, and she's like, now what do? I kind of have to get hungrier and work harder and go after this thing as like my last chance. Whereas with Poppy, she's sort of like, okay, I worked hard, I like got what I thought I wanted, I'm like fairly comfortable, I'm like have the dream job, and something is still missing because that didn't fix me. That didn't fix my own sadness and brokenness and all of that. So yeah, it's like, I kind of came at it from that angle, whereas like Beach Read was about writer's block. This was sort of like not about, it was sort of like, what do you do when you have your dream job, but you're still like depressed, basically? The answer is get counseling and write another book.
Yeah, maybe writing a book can help cure your ennui.
Yeah.
And I loved that Poppy was going through that. I felt like it was just one of the things that helped make her feel like a really well-rounded character. And one of the things that you do so well in your books is that like they are beautiful romances, and in part, the reason that they are is because both of the central characters are so fully fleshed out, and they're not perfect. And they might have, sometimes you might want to like shake them by the shoulders a little bit and be like, can't you see what's in front of you? But one thing I really appreciated about this one, though, is that Poppy's smart about her relationship with Alex. She's like, okay, yeah, we're friends. And I'm not going to say that there's never a moment of attraction with him. It's like 5 to 15% of the time, I feel. And I might be getting those numbers wrong.
No, I think it was. I mean, I wouldn't know anyway, but I think it was like 5 to 15.
Yeah. And I really appreciated that nuanced view, because I feel like I read things about friendships that might blossom into something more. And so often it either is like they've been quietly pining for each other the whole time and just haven't told each other, or it's like they had no idea and then it smacked them in the face. Yeah. And I thought you did like a really nice nuanced look at it.
My internet is probably going to freeze occasionally and people might still be able to hear me. I don't know when it happens. So I'm going to give it a second.
I can still hear you. You are like this.
Worst case scenario, I can reboot it and it usually fixes it. Okay, you're back. Okay.
You're back.
Sorry. Yeah, that might happen a couple more times. So we just tap dance for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That's like a really lovely compliment. And I mean, I think it's interesting because in a way, like with, again, going spoiler light, I do feel like Jillian has like, there's like a potential, there's actually like 2 potential kind of romance connections that are dealing with similar themes. And like you were saying, like people like making bad decisions, but bad decisions that feel honest to who those characters are. And I feel like that's so important as a writer and as a reader. It's like, I don't need perfect characters ever. I just need to like understand why they would do the things they would do. And I think with the friends to lovers thing, I do feel like there is this sensation. It's so easy to be like, well, these 2 people, like, obviously they love each other. They should like get together. But my husband and I were just talking about like growing up, both of us are kind of like romantics, I would say. And so we were like talking about like, remember like how just like everyone you met, you were like, this could be a lover of mine. Emily, do you agree with that?
Literally, okay, I like had this whole Romeo and Juliet thing in my head, and I would see people on the street and I would be like, maybe if we lock eyes, we will know that we are soulmates. And I would just like look really long and hard at every man or boy.
You're giving me such Crazy Ex-Girlfriend vibes right now. And I mean the show, not like the stereotype.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So it's like a thing where you're just like everyone you meet, and even like your close friends, I feel like, like you have a moment where you're like, this could be something. And like, I actually was someone who never chose to act on that, and no regrets, because I wound up with someone I'm very happy with. And also I still have a lot of those friendships where it's like, if I were 14 years old and I was like, let's give this a go, we wouldn't still be friends now, like 20 years later. Like, so I think it's really interesting because it's like the balance of trying to set up these 2 people and be like, this friendship is so important to them, which is like also something that Jillian's kind of going through. There's like a little bit of a fake dating sitchy in Special Place for Women, which is very exciting for, I feel like, anybody who's just looking for that kernel of romance and everything. But it's like a similar thing.
Yeah. I mean, I love that trope. That's like one of my favorite rom-com tropes. Yeah. I feel like I just kind of want to put rom-coms into everything that I do. So I was like,
because I think that's one reason I love your book so much, is there is like, there's like sort of a sexiness, like even like, I don't know if there's a sexiness in every regard, because I think the stories are sort of like flashy themselves and sexy and mysterious, but then also there is like, these little kernels for the person who's just always looking for like the sexual tension and the longing.
Yeah. Okay, Emily, I feel like we have a problem, which is that we are talking too much and we haven't gotten to like the gamey things where everybody can participate.
You're right. You're so right. That's true. That's a good problem. I'm opening the chat thing, so.
I know, this is one of these things where I do just kind of want to talk to you forever, and we can keep talking about our books, or we could move on to like the portion of the night where it's like you're on vacation and you just kind of ask each other.
Great. I think we do vacation, and then we ask Berkeley to send us on tour together when tours exist again. That's like physical tours. And then we have a vacation, and then by the end we're either have matching tattoos or we never speak again.
Those are the only options.
There's no in between, no middle ground. So Laura had the genius idea for Margarita Summer that we would kind of do some just questions that anybody can answer. You don't have to. If you want to be the voyeur reader, you're definitely welcome to be. Mm-hmm. But if you want to answer them in the chat, go for it. And we'll talk about ours too.
Yeah. So we have some sort of bigger hypotheticals, and then we've got some would you rathers. So I guess to start out with, what is your favorite rom-com trope? We have sort of talked about this a little bit.
Yeah. So Martha Hunt, who's a phenomenal historical romance writer, was saying she divides them into macro tropes and micro tropes, I think is what she called them. So my favorite macro trope, I would say is probably enemies to lovers. But as far as the little thing, I love the one bed scenario, which is why there's a version of it and people we meet on vacation.
Yeah, literally when I got to that part, I gasped out loud. I was like, yes, there's only one bed. I was so
I love seeing people's answers saying friends to lovers, enemies to lovers. Yeah. One bed, star-crossed lovers. That's Laura and the stranger on the street who didn't make eye contact.
Are you my soulmate?
You could be. You exist.
Yeah.
You exist, and I'm, a teenager in my 20s, so anyone goes. Okay, so what's the most rom-com thing that's ever happened to you in real life?
Okay, I'm gonna try to tell this story in a condensed manner because I could spend half an hour on it, but I won't. I do. That's for our actual in-person tour. But I do think that my fiance and I have a bit of a rom-com thing that happened in that we went to college together and we kind of had crushes on each other, but we didn't actually start dating until school was over. And then we dated for a little while in our early 20s, and it was wonderful. But then we broke up because we lived in different cities. We weren't ready to move to be with each other. It was so sad. I spent the whole weekend driving around crying to someone like you.
I wish I had your playlist from that on hand.
Yeah, I think it was that and reading Good in Bed by Jennifer Weiner all weekend. So good. But I was always maybe someday when we're older and wiser, we'll see each other at a mutual friend's wedding and realize we were meant to be. And so 7 years later, we saw each other at our friend's wedding. And we had stayed in contact. If we were ever in the same city.
But it was the scenario you dreamt up for yourself, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I was the most awkward I've ever been around him. But then it did prompt me a little later to confess my undying love for him. And then he was the one who got away. And he was oh, I'm dating someone.
Which is also very rom-com. That's what would happen.
Exactly. So, again, devastation. And then I moved on. I started dating a very nice man. I was supposed to go meet him in Wyoming for the summer where he was working. I was supposed to get on a plane in 2 weeks. And Dave came to me and was all right, I'm single. I've been thinking about what you said. I think we need to try or else we'll always wonder. And I was wow. I'm going to Wyoming. And then I didn't get on the plane.
That's amazing. I love that so much. That's why the thing is you can say that romance is unrealistic, but it's all these tropes come from somewhere. They happen in real life. I think the thing that I don't know if I would say this is the most rom-com thing. I did feel, I will admit, a little bit of pressure to be okay, I have to choose my husband now. But I will say, I probably would never write a love at first sight scenario because I just think it's so hard to get people on board. But I do feel I'll say it was love at second sight with my husband because I don't remember the first time I met him. I was dating someone else who introduced us and I had no memory of it. But then the second time I met him, I was just this is the person. I know nothing about him. This is the person. But a funnier thing that's only really awkward to think about is in high school, I went to a show, a concert, and this boy I had a crush on when I was probably 15, came through the crowd and gave me a hug, and then huge swell of people and did get fully knocked down onto a table or something. And it was actually horrible. I'm getting hot and itchy thinking about it. It was so embarrassing in real life, but in a movie, it'd be cute. And then you would be oh, lock eyes.
Brush
It
yourself
wasn't.
off. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like getting so embarrassed for my 15-year-old self again.
I do think a lot of rom-com things in movies, if they happen in real life, are just terrible. Probably.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you're like, well, I have to go immediately have diarrhea. Like, I'm so stressed out.
Yeah, yeah. They cut the diarrhea out of the movies.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying they cut the diarrhea out of the movies. But so if I guess our next question is, if you were trying to get into a secret society, how would you attempt to impress the members? And then why do you think that they would ultimately reject you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, the first thing that came to my mind that just feels like something very me to do, not like something I should do. I feel like somebody would be talking about needing a haircut, and I would be like, I'll try. And that's why I would get rejected. They'd be like, how dare you? But also probably they would just find out that I like can't really keep secrets very well. That's probably what would actually happen is they would test me because they'd be like, this girl's loud. What are we going to tell her that we can like trust her with? That's kind of what I think would go down. What about you?
I think I'm good at like embarrassing myself in public a bit. Just like if somebody needs to get up on a table and sing a song,
You'll do it.
I'll do it generally. But then I feel like the members would be like, oh, actually, she's a little bit too into singing, and she can
He's not embarrassed.
Yeah. She like can sing the entire soundtrack to Into the Woods, and maybe that's like not cool enough for us. I don't know.
She did a death drop into the splits at the end. Like,
exactly.
wow. I have to say, you're in. You're in. I accept you.
And I don't care that you would tell all the secrets. I would accept you too.
Here's the rule. If you tell me, this is so dumb. If you tell me something's a secret and not to tell people, I actually won't. But if you think it's implied, that wasn't good enough for me. You have to tell me.
I think I'm the same way, actually. Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe that's just like maybe that's partly like how girls are socialized. They're just like, well, you have to say everything that you hear aloud again, or everything you think. It's like, you have to talk about it. Make sure you talk about it. And then later they're like, whoa, 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 don't talk about it.
Wow.
What's the best vacation you've ever, oh, and I want to see really quick. Oh my gosh, Alexa said she'd get kicked out for using Marvel and Disney backpacks as purses.
I know. And I was like seeing some of these incredible love story, like rom-com stories, and I couldn't read them all because we were talking, but I love them. So
oh my gosh, yeah, this person who said that their coworker was driving them home and then said, I have to tell you now I'm in love with you. I'd be so mad if I didn't ever say anything. And it didn't work out, but I actually misread that the first time, so I thought the person said that, and then your response was just saying nothing. And then you said, and it didn't work out.
should we do the what's the best vacation you've ever been on, Emily?
Best vacation. I'm just not that picky. I feel like seeing Disney and Marvel both mentioned here I'm a theme park person, which is something I don't talk about publicly that much, but I'm working on it. I love theme parks. I love immersive experiences, except for when actors talk to me in character. I can't handle that, but it seems like you actually would be able to handle that.
Maybe. Well, why can't you handle it? You're just like, it's too much.
It's too much. I feel so overwhelmed because I'm not sure if I'm supposed to, I guess you are supposed to pretend that you believe they're the character. And like, it feels like I'm lying, and like I've never acted in any capacity whatsoever. So it feels like lying to me to go along with the ruse.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're not really Chewbacca. You're not fooling me.
You want to just be like, are you too hot in that costume? Are you okay?
Exactly.
What are your working conditions like? Yeah.
Yeah, don't make me go along with this. I mean, and then I would say also, I did like all the trips in the book are based on real trips, and Croatia was like the most beautiful place I've ever been, and it was a really fun trip. So that was another one.
That sounds incredible. For me, not to be all my fiance, but
my fiance.
I do talk about other things. But we did take a trip to Asheville. We like drove the Blue Ridge Parkway, and Asheville is so cool. Somebody told us it was like catnip for millennials. And I think that's very true. The food is so good. There's like a bookstore / champagne bar where you can also like buy chocolate truffles and just like sit and read your book all day. It's wonderful. But also, I think the thing that happened on this vacation, which is something that your book is so good at talking about, is that like not everything went right. There was a hurricane. We like got lost in the dark driving around a mountain. And it was just one of those things where you're like, oh, I'm glad that I have you here with me. And yeah, like, oh, this is gonna work, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's the whole thing is I feel like when trips go wrong, that's like the thing you remember forever. And it can either be like a really funny, fun memory if you're with funny, fun people, or it can be like the end of the relationship. We were just like, well, see you never.
Bye. You really revealed your true self there.
Yeah. There's like a story. I can't share any of the details. See, here's the thing. It's like, I couldn't share any of the details, but I just like a friend basically took a really funny trip with a truly platonic friend. And everybody was sort of like, ooh, you two, like you're gonna fall in love. Like you're both single, whatever. And then when this friend got back, they were like, I don't think I'll be seeing them ever again. Like it was so stressful. There's the details of the story are great, but I can't share any of them. So it wasn't worth saying.
Okay. Well, I'll just have to imagine.
We'll just edit that out later. Michael, you can do that, right?
Yeah, it's not like this is live or anything. Yeah.
No. Okay. So again, like I know that your book has been out for one day, so this won't mean all that much, but if you were going to divide the women of Nevertheless into Sex and the City archetypes, who would be whom? Or who would be who?
Okay. I think Jillian, the main character, the journalist, she probably considers herself a Miranda.
But she's a Carrie.
She's a Carrie. I mean, she's a writer. Also,
yeah. But she definitely considers herself, I cannot agree with you more that she thinks she's a Miranda.
Yeah. And then I think like Caroline, who's sort of the more girl bossy corporate leader of the club, I think she would be like more of a Charlotte maybe. And Margot, she's got, I guess, the charisma of a Samantha. Margot's like the sort of more bohemian, manifesty, woo-woo leader of the club. So that's how I would do it. What about you? What about Alex and Poppy?
Yeah, I think, well, Alex would not know who he was, but he would be a Miranda, I would say. But like a little bit softer, like a Miranda with a Charlotte moon or something. And then probably Poppy would also just have to be Carrie, just because she's kind of frazzled and wild, has big hair, those things.
I see that. I could see her wearing like the Carrie outfits too. Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Last one before we get into the would you rathers, and do those quickly and then do Q&A. You're being forced to start a multi-level marketing scheme. What do you sell?
I'm going to say essential oils. I'm just going to say that and stick with that as my final answer. Great.
Perfect. I'm going to say, is there a way that I can sell my book in like a multi-level marketing scheme?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's called being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So that's what I'd do.
Everybody can put their answers in while we move on to this or that, which people can also say their answers were. Okay, Laura, are you big dog energy or tiny angry cat vibes?
Big dog. What about you? Yeah, I think pretty clear. Anybody watching this would be like, there's no cat on this screen.
Right? Yeah, there's no cat. Like, it's sad because we could probably use a little bit of cat. Okay, so political power or actual witchcraft?
So are we talking like political power? Like I could actually get all the bills that I want passed?
I think the kind of political power that you can feasibly have in this world.
Than actual witchcraft.
Yeah. Okay, now what if you could have all of the political power?
Political power.
Wow, you're such a good person. Yeah, I feel like I couldn't pass up actual witchcraft. Everybody's saying actual witchcraft. I feel like if you're like, yeah, I could save the whole world with politics, or I could have actual witchcraft and hopefully not make things worse, like you probably should go with political power. But it's also about responsibility, and there's not as much for witchcraft. Okay, New York City penthouse or Color Explosion Palm Springs hotel?
To visit the hotel, to live penthouse. What about you?
I think I have to say same.
Yeah.
I have to say same.
Breakfast or dinner?
Breakfast.
Dinner. Wow.
Wow. See, and this is why the tour would be a disaster.
I
Just
know.
kidding. We eat breakfast for dinner, and that's my favorite time to have breakfast. So it's not really an issue for me.
Yeah. I do have to say, it looks like in this chat, I'm the only dinner person who's
Wow.
here. Wow.
Now you know. Now you know that's your true. Oh, we've got a bunch of dinners popping in. They might just be trying to make you feel better. Just kidding. Dinner's great. I'm more of a potato chips gal at night than dinner. Okay, 5-star restaurant or street cart food?
I think like to everything there is a season. But if I could never have one of them again, I guess I would knock out street cart food.
I feel like if I could never have one again, I would knock out 5-star restaurant. But
Yeah.
probably that's really unwise because like you need to eat vegetables and like be able to go to the bathroom and all of that. Like as soon as you're like 30 and beyond, you're like, I can't, even in this game of this or that, you're just like, well, it has to be 5-star restaurant because I'm gonna need a salad.
Yeah, street cart salad maybe doesn't quite work. Although maybe somebody here has had an amazing street cart
I
salad.
bet there is there's probably a good one.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Okay, plan every single detail of a trip or plan nothing about it at all.
I mean, I hate both, but if I had to pick, plan every detail.
Same. I hate having to be the person to plan it, but it would be so terrifying to just show up not knowing like anything you're going to do.
I remember there was like a viral article a while ago about this woman who, for like her third date with a guy, they were like, we're going to fly into Istanbul. And a month later, we're going to fly out of London. And we don't know what we're going to do in between. And I was like, that sounds terrifying. And I think they didn't even bring a suitcase. They brought like one little handbag or something with a change of underwear. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Would you rather be secretly in love with your best friend for years or hide from almost all of your friends for months that you're writing a damning news story about them?
Secretly in love. I couldn't take the pressure. What about you?
Yeah, I think both would be awful, but at least if I were secretly in love, I could like look myself in the mirror as opposed to being like, I'm betraying my friend. Yeah.
I do now know that I can't even like speak to a person in costume. There's no way I'm getting away with Jillian's whole situation. Like, no. I'm not pulling it off. No. Okay, would you have to burn one of those goop vagina candles every time you have someone over, knowing that sometimes they do explode? Or have a yoni crystal prominently displayed and labeled on your mantle?
So are these the crystals that you like put up for your pelvic floor?
A vagina candle or a vagina crystal. But one is like more discreet, but it might explode.
I think I would take the risk of explosion.
Wow, I would do the crystal. I'd be like, this is a conversation starter.
This has been inside me. Yeah. Would you rather always have to introduce yourself as girl boss or never introduce yourself again? Also, I just want to say, when you put this one into the document and I saw it, I was like cackling. This is an Emily Henry.
I would choose to never introduce myself. I'd be like, someone else can like do that, or I'll just talk like I already know them and have the awkwardness of, if they're like, what's your name again? Of just like being silent.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I would choose the same. Maybe like I'd start wearing a name tag if I can do that. I don't know.
Just get a bunch of monogram sweaters and stuff and be like, this is my thing.
Yeah. Great.
Never introduce myself, cannot be girl boss. Lexi says that they'd take girl boss. I mean, people are taking their risks that they're able to take, going to become an unnamed narrator. Okay. Would you rather have to, which we only have 2 more and then we can get to Q&A. Yeah. Would you rather have to sleep in extreme heat or extreme cold?
Probably the heat. Like if I had all the blankets and I could put on more blankets than the cold, but if it's like, you're either going to be way too hot or way too cold, I'd rather be too hot.
That's such a good point. I guess I was assuming there'd be blankets, and like I hate sleeping hot, but I guess if it's like you're either going to be really hot or really cold, I don't know which would make you sleep worse. My inclination to say I'd rather be cold, but yeah. I don't actually know.
I think this is
I'd complain either way.
In your book that like they have to, the air conditioning is broken. It's like one of my favorite running sort of jokes that also really like amps up the stress of their situation.
Yeah, it's based on my real life home air conditioning, which every summer is just like, okay, it's 98 degrees outside, let's take a break.
Oh God.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right, last one of these. Would you rather get to tell off your middle school bully or a politician who has disappointed you?
Do you have an answer ready to go?
Yeah, I think I don't know if this is like these politicians have disappointed me, but I definitely like
Yeah.
walk around. I mean, I live in Washington D.C. now. I feel like I walk around with prepared speeches in my head for like some of the politicians who I think are very bad people, just in case I ever see them. I want to just be like, you're destroying democracy.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that worries me. I want to say politician because it's obviously the right thing to do. How I say obviously, like there's not opinions. But in my truth, I know I would immediately start crying so hard because when I'm angry, I cry. So I wouldn't be able to get out any words. So then they would just be like, why is this sobbing woman accosting me?
Yeah.
And I think with the middle school bully, there's like a chance for reconciliation. You're like, so much could have changed by now. So like maybe this is better for me personally to face this head on.
That's true. Somebody in the chat, Max Marin, did say like the bully might actually take it to heart and you might feel better. Yeah. As much as I would like to believe that I could be the one person to change somebody like a politician's mind and get them to, be better.
It's just more of a catharsis probably than actually expecting to change their minds.
Yeah.
How much time do you really have? Like how much time do you have before their like secret security spirits them away?
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you everybody for playing that game with us. Should we do some of the audience Q&A?
Yeah, and also I do want to say I just see this comment, bold of you to assume they're not the same person, which I really love. Like I wonder how many middle school bullies are now politicians.
Probably a lot. Yeah. Ooh, changing a politician's mind is the witchcraft.
So true.
Nice, Diana. So I am interested in this. Did either of your novels have alternative titles? Bethany Beecham, great question. Did yours have an alternate title?
No, I had the title. The title was like part of another pitch that we had that didn't feel totally right. And then kind of from when all these other things were coming together, it was like, that actually works perfectly for my like emotional arc plan for this concept. What about you? Like has to be the title of this book.
Yeah, but for the longest time I was calling it Nevertheless, because that's the name of the club. Yeah, but then Alec Baldwin wrote a memoir that was called Nevertheless. So I was like, gotta change it to something else. Thanks, Alec Baldwin.
Alec, you know who needs to talk about feminism more? Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, Alec Baldwin persisted.
I do have to say, like, thank you to Alec, because I do think A Special Place for Women is a much better title. So.
Yeah, it really is. I love the multiple levels of that. Like, just the best. It's a wordplay title, which I'm into.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Should we look at the rest of these questions? Emily, what is your favorite part about people we meet on vacation?
So I mean, it was just really fun to write, which I appreciate. I always appreciate that in a book. But my favorite scene, which I cannot give too many spoilers, but there's a scene with Poppy's mom that like was the only time maybe that I've like been laughing while I've written something, because I just knew exactly in that moment like how everyone would act, and was thinking of like a friend and her mom's relationship, and like, yeah. So I mean, I wish, so some people know which scene. You can send, I don't know if you can send emojis. I don't know how technology works. I was gonna say send emojis if you know what scene it is, but what about you? What was your favorite place, or what's your favorite place in A Special Place for Women?
So there are some parts towards the end, but I won't talk about those. So there is a scene in the middle where they all go to this gala together, and it just is like this really fun set piece to me, because so much happens. Like this love triangle is coming to a head. All the characters are just like being themselves the most.
100%.
Yeah. So that, and the stakes are so high. It's like this moment where Jillian has to make something happen. It's her last chance. Plus, it's like all set in this very fancy gala. So I love big scenes like that with a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, that was super smart. Like everything about that, I mean, everything about the book is really smart, but that scene did feel like the muse was with you. That was like my impression reading it. Have you read anything you loved lately?
Yeah. I recommended this at my launch event too. I did the same move. It was on the bookshelf behind me. But the final revival of Opal and Nev, I'm not done with it yet, but it's so good. It is similar to Daisy Jones and the Six in the structure, and that it's this oral history of a fictional rock duo, but the characters are so different, and what it's talking about is really different, and it's just incredibly immersive. So I would really recommend that or this book. I loved it.
It's not fair because I literally can't reach for my copy of yours. No, I've been so curious about Opal and Nev because it was a book of the month pick, and I didn't pick it, and then like kind of regretted not picking it, and now I know I'm going to use a credit on it. I don't have my finished copy within reach, but one book that I recently loved that just came out. This is like the kind of shoddy like arc, but Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q Sutanto, which was pitched as Weekend at Bernie's meets Crazy Rich Asians, and it is bonkers. It is so fun, in like kind of like a little bit more of a slapstick way, but similar to A Special Place for Women. I feel like in that there's kind of this thriller aspect, a mystery aspect, and a little dash of romance, and it's just so heartwarming, and the characters are so funny and lovely. It's about this like young woman and her like over involved aunties who are like basically helping her get away with maybe accidentally having killed someone who may or may not have deserved it. But it's so funny and fun and good, and it's out now, so everybody should get that. And I haven't started reading it yet, but because she's in here, I'm gonna embarrass her. I don't know if she'd be embarrassed, but I have on my Kindle for very soon A Lot Like Adios by Alexis Daria, and I'm so excited for that. Alexis is such an incredible writer, and also like I cannot talk about her without then also shouting out her covers, which are like, I like wish I can't reach for anything because it's too far away. But her Google Alexis Daria, You Had Me from Ola. Is that what it's called, Alexis? You Had Me at Ola, or You Had Me from Ola? It's just incredible. The covers are amazing. The books are amazing. So for romance readers, that's something you need to make sure you have pre-ordered.
I don't know if Alexis remembers this, but we used to, in pre-pandemic times, we belonged to the same co-writing space in New York.
Awesome.
We met at a party, and then I looked her up and I was like, oh my God, she's so cool.
Yeah, like the secretly impressive person who's not like a jerk to you, so you don't know how impressive they are. You're like, oh, you should have been rude. Then I would have known how fancy you were.
Yeah, man, I miss that co-writing space. It was so nice to just like go to a place with other writers, and you were like, you had to be quiet, but then there was a break room you could go and talk, so you still got to be social.
Fun. I love that. I probably had my Captain Marvel backpack, she says.
Amazing. I feel like we have 3 minutes left, so should we try to do one more question really quick, or should we just say a long goodbye?
A long goodbye. You're gonna sing The Sound of Music, good night song, whatever it's called.
Yeah, so long farewell. I could probably do it all right now from memory, but I won't.
Why don't you tell me, do you know what you're working on next? Can you talk about it at all in loose terms? I feel like that's a good, like, what we can watch out for next from you.
Yeah, so I am at some point soon going to be adapting A Special Place for Women for TV, which is very cool. I like actually get to write the pilot.
That's amazing.
I know. But novel wise, I am working on a book now that's about like the members of a Mickey Mouse Club / High School Musical-esque TV show that was big in the early 2000s, who all imploded like spectacularly, sort of like Janet Jackson in the Super Bowl type implosion on live TV. And so now it's 12 years later, they've all gone in really different directions in life, but they have to come back together again for a reunion special. And of course, you know, the man in the group has done much better in the intervening years than the women have. So it's really fun to work on. What about you?
So fun. I totally, as soon as you started talking about it, was like, oh yeah, I knew this because that sounds like another perfect book and just like perfect for you. Like you're just gonna crush that. I'm so excited. I continuously don't actually know how much I'm like allowed to say or not say. So I am writing another rom-com, women's fiction-y rom-com, romantic women's fiction book that should be coming out next summer. And in the way that this book was like sort of my homage to When Harry Met Sally, I have been thinking of this one as my homage to You've Got Mail, even though it actually only will, I'm curious if anybody will kind of see why I feel that way. So yeah, it's very book centered and very publishing centered again, which is fun. And I did see that somebody asked how my real life publishing team felt about like the fictional depiction, and I mean, everybody's really nice to me, so I assume they weren't offended. I love my publishing team, so I had nothing bad to say about them. Yeah, I mean, I think that's all I've got going on. So I'm not writing for Laura's show.
If you want to, I don't know how much control I'll have.
yeah. I see that. No, that's okay. I just want to watch it. Just get me the screener of it when it's ready. I'll take that.